probably you would like to introduce yourself.
Well, Dr. Sneha is me today because Ore Kalankani had given nice to give us their site, so that we can what do you call go live. So I
Okay.
have to, because you know that we are trying to be formal, but then we don't have all stuff.
All right.
So Ore Kalankani is an organization where it's all about women empowerment, feminist. It's like,
Yeah.
so I really like the name also. I have to really understand. What do you say, Ore Kalankani? And then she explained. So we try to share with them. So
We have Kashmira, we have Bhabjyoti. Maybe a sentence will be good enough.
Kashmira, I know that you like to talk. Come on, you're feeling shy. And thank you, Sanjay, to leading, because I do not have Priyanshu today. Otherwise, it's difficult to try to do both. So, thank you for keep it going. He is on hold. Sure. All right. Okay. Yeah, I was. Multitasking become a little bit difficult. All right. Hi, Neelam.
Yes, can you all hear me?
Yes. We would like to see your face also for a few minutes.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I'm there.
Hi, Neelam.
Hello.
Good to see you. Good morning. Thank you for joining our session. We are going live on our Facebook pages. So on behalf of Anazori and Ore Kalankani, we want to invite you. And we are here to know about you, what you're doing, and specifically more about organic farming.
Yes, so I'm Neelam Datta. I'm based in a village called Pahoi, which is around 280 kilometers from Guwahati. So we are a very small organic farm, which my father started in 1978, but unfortunately he left us in 2001. So after that, me and my mom took over the farm. And in 2003, we converted our farm into an organic farm. So since 2003, I have been a farmer now. And we have a few components, like we do fishery, we do fish breeding. That is one of our main components. We do farming, we do vegetables, and we also do rice. Rice is also a major component in our farm. And we also practice fish and periculture, where we grow fish and rice together. Plus, we have a small compost unit where we do vermicompost, and with the limited cows we have, we also make biopesticide out of cow urine. We also have a small apiary unit. We have some honey boxes, around 17 of it. We also do mushrooms, seasonal mushroom. We have a seasonal nursery for growing vegetable saplings and flower saplings. And the most important thing that we do is vegetable seed breeding. So we are trying our best to bring our alternative to F1 hybrids and also conventional seeds. So we are also putting our sweat and blood to do vegetable seed production and breeding. Yes. Milind.
Yeah. So, we would like to know more about fish farming, like Sanjay is here and other people. We wanted to know more about the whole process of organic farming or organic fish farming, if you could.
So yes, so we do around 9 species of fish breeding. So right now we are also doing it. Basically the carps, we do the Indian major carps. So Indian major carp consists of rohu, katla, and mrigal. And we do the Indian minor carps, which are labio kalbasu, labio.
We cannot hear you.
because I guess it is the connection problem. Maybe Neelam, you can turn off your video. It might just help you a little bit with the connection.
Which is sorry, our village doesn't have good signal, so the phone will get disconnected because I'm having the Wi-Fi with the. I'm sorry for that. Anyway, so apart from that, we also did the catfish like the anabas and magur, and we are also trying our best to go for two other species which are very good, like chital and ari. Yeah. So back to Milind. Yes.
Milind,
Yes, go ahead.
can I just put a framework so that we understand the entire gamut of things related to organic fish farming?
So, Neelam, the whole process is generally you share what you want to share, and we wanted to learn more about organic farming. I do not know who's.
Hello.
So, Neelam, before you joined, I was sharing with Milind and the co-participants that one reason why we are interested in fish farming is that we want to generate livelihoods for the local people, jobs for the local people. We have a huge consumption. There is a niche market, but at the same time, the fish that is coming from Odisha and Andhra is generating huge amount of thermocol, and it is all going to the rivers. Trust me, I've seen this in Tinsukia, in Dibrugarh, in Jorhat, in Guwahati, everywhere that I go, the rivers are getting full of thermocol. So the idea with the vision that I have, that how can we promote fish farming here, both organic and the regular fish farming, so that we reduce our import from other states, so we reduce our waste also, and what kind of skills are required, what kind of resources are required, both in terms of human resources, in terms of investment, and probably in terms of also, if you don't mind the word, passion and willpower to do something for the motherland.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I'll try to address this. Yes. Yes, as far we know that 80% of the fish are being imported from outside the state. And that is not only generating thermocol, which you told, they also put off lots of preservatives like formalin and all, which was tested last year and it was banned for a few days. But eventually it didn't work out. So the basic thing is that what I felt is we have to change the mentality of our people. Then only we can do, because we always have that perception that we cannot do fish farming, even though we have abundant scope and space, as well as weather. So going to your point, I'll basically say about the small economics of fish farming. You know, the only investment that is required is digging up a pond. But in most of the occasion, if you see in Pan Assam, basically in Upper Assam, the water table is very high. So we do not need to dig too much. So there is also some misconception among people that we have to dig the pond too deep so that sorry, there would be more water and there would be more fish. So in farming, fish farming, the average water depth should be 1 meter. So 3.3 feet, maximum till 4.5 feet. So we usually maintain the water depth till 3.5 feet to 4.5 feet. So the more the sunlight it goes inside the water, the more photosynthesis happens. And the basic food of fish are planktons, and planktons requires, you know, sunlight for making their own food. That is number one. Number two, the quality seedlings. So which is missing in Assam. Not a single hatchery in the whole state or in Northeast does single breeding of carps, which is the biggest irony. Even the department is there, but they don't have any check and balances on the breeders. We are the only farm, we could proudly say that we are the only farm in Northeast to do single carp breeding, even though it costs us a lot, because not only in terms of breeding, but also we need separate ponds for keeping separate fish. But while a farmer, when he takes fish to put it in his tank, if he can put it in 3 different layers, where the basic idea is that the fish lives in 3 different layers, the top, the middle, and the bottom. So if we can put the fish in that required amount as per the layer, then obviously the fish will grow big. Second comes feeding. So in Assam, basically people doesn't go for feeding and liming because our soil are very acidic. So in order to make the pH level neutral, we have to apply lime. So it's usually 250 kgs per hectare, and it doesn't cost much because the limestones are quite cheap. It costs around 17 to 20 rupees a kilo. Second, the feeding. We don't have any good feed industry or mill in Assam or Northeast. We are importing fish feed from outside the state, basically from Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, and also West Bengal. And the average cost of feed it comes around 38 rupees to 56 rupees, which is much beyond the budget of any farmer. So if we can if we can think for a holistic way of having industry, then we also need good farmers who can grow corn, which is corn is also one of the major ingredient of fish feed. Then we need rice burnt or rice polished, the powder of rice, and we need mustard oil cake. These are the three vital ingredients, plus some protein elements. So protein elements can also be substituted by soya meal, soya powder, which we can import it from Chhattisgarh and many other places, and also a little bit of agrimin a kind of mineral mixture, which is also readily available in the market. But we need to have that holistic setup of having the farmers who not only does fish farming, but also does corn, also does mustard, and we also have to interlink them to good entrepreneurs who can produce good fish feed for us. Yes. Next question.
My internet is very bad. Sanjay, could you continue asking Neelam more question? My current went off, so internet is giving problem.
Sanjay, you have to unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Yes, sorry. So if you want to be a farmer, what kind of investment is required? I have asked this question to many fish experts. I haven't got a right answer. Say, so if I want to harvest, say 1,000 kg of fish of a mix of varieties, what kind of land requirements are there, and what kind of initial investment I will have to go? And are there government schemes around which we can start doing it?
So till now we haven't got anything from the government, and we doesn't want to run from post to pillar. And second thing, we can't be a so-called dalal of Congress or BJP because we have our own self-respect. Because the pseudo farmers always gets those projects, and basically they are part of that system, and we doesn't want to get ourselves dirty. So number one, please don't ask me about anything about government schemes. Second, the basic investment, you told about 10 quintals of fish, right? So the average fish in organic, it comes around 25 quintals per hectare. So if you can divide it by 7.5, it should come around 3.5 quintals. So you require around 1 acre of land to have 1,000 kgs of fish. So the basic investment of digging up a pond, it varies from places to places. So either you do it manually or you do it through excavators. So through excavators, you will require around 6 to 8 days. So it costs you around 80,000 or maybe maximum 100,000 rupees or a lakh rupees to construct a pond of around 1 acre. But in our places, it is quite cheap because we still have workers to do it. And it comes around 60,000 for us to dig a pond. So while digging up a pond, you should also see the topography of the place. It all depends on where does the water flows. So we usually do it it depends on the size of the land, but still if it is rectangular in shape, it is very good. And north to south direction is rather good for fishing. Second, you need to have an elevation of 1:4. I mean, if the surface area on the top is 4 feet, the base of that embankment should be around 16 feet. So that there would be a 45-degree angle and there would be less erosion. Because in northern bank of the Brahmaputra, where we had the foothills and we have a sandy loamy soil, so there is the problem of erosion. But on the southern bank, towards Tinsukia and Dibrugarh, it's quite clay soil and it's quite hardy soil. So you can reduce the elevation a little bit less according to your need. So first comes, after digging up the pond, the fixed capital cost should be around more or less 1 lakh. Then comes the recurring cost. So every year the recurring cost first comes is lime. So lime for 1 acre, you would require around 150 kgs of lime. So you can multiply it into 20 rupees. So 3,000 rupees of lime you'll require for the whole year. So 50% of the lime you should apply at the time before the fish is being put in the tank. And the rest 50% can be divided into equal halves. Second comes farmyard manure or cow dung, old cow dung or compost or vermicompost. So for a new pond, you'd require around 6 tons per acre, which we feel because we always dig up the top layer. And in order to build that layer on the ground, we need a very good surface. So we need lots of compost so that there should be a permissible, non-permissible layer so that the water doesn't penetrate inside. So in order to make that layer, you need to put around 6 tons of compost per biga. So it comes around 18 tons per acre. Number 2. Number 3 comes the seedling cost. So the average seedling that we put in per acre is around 3,000 fish per acre. Not much. So 3,000 fish into 5 rupees. So we put a fish seedlings of 4 to 6 inches, which are really ideal because the small fish are being eaten by predators, and most of our people used to put the small seedlings where most of the fish gets, they died because of many other reasons, or maybe because of predators like birds, snakes, and reptiles or amphibians. Fourth investment is food, which is the major investment. So it all depends on how best you feed them. So we usually feed 2 to 4% of body weight. So if you are releasing, say, around 10 kgs of seedlings, so you can multiply it into 4%. So it comes around maybe 400 grams per day. So it's not possible for us to put the feed every day. So we have to divide it into equal halves, or maybe you can do it 10 times a month, or maybe 15 days a month, alternative day. So in that way, you can make up your feed. So right now, we don't have any food processing plant. So what we do, we have brought some corn also from Dirang, where they are done organically. But because of the lockdown, we are not able to import corn from West Kameng district of Arunachal, where all the villagers do it organically. So we are getting it from Sita Jakhala. Sita Jakhala is a mill cooperative in Morigaon. So these are conventional corn. We have our own rice. So we mill our own rice, and we have a small grinder in our home. So we grind the corn. Then we mix up with mustard oil cake. Mustard oil cake also we are procuring organically from a farm called Kainaka, which is very close by here. And agrimin food, we are using a kind of a mineral mixture, which we are getting it from the veterinary shop. So we mix it, the protein, the calcium component is 1% of the whole feed lot. So we make a feed of around, say, 100 kgs. So 1 kg of calcium, of calcium and the mineral mixture, we mix up with the feed. So this is the recurring cost. So recurring cost per acre comes around 45,000 to 60,000, depending upon your budget. So on an average, you'd end up spending around 2 lakhs to 2.5 lakhs per year. So on an average, if you sell the fish at 300 rupees a kilo, then you could earn around 3 lakhs. So you will make a profit of around 70 to 80,000 in the first year. So next year, it will come down because the compost will go down. There would not be any fixed cost. The recurring cost will also vary because once the soil becomes fertile, the plankton will grow of their own. So we put more stress on creating plankton. So like in rivers and big lakes, the government or no one goes and put feed to the fish, but the fish always grows big and they're much tastier because they basically feed on natural elements. So we also try to create that equilibrium, the balance in the food system. So we have our own compost and vermicompost unit. So we use a lot of compost, and also lots of weeds that are grown around the fish pond can be converted into very good compost, by various means, and that can be reused in the pond. Yes. Did I address you, Dr. Gupta?
Yes, Neelam. Many thanks. I have a piece of land which is given by a friend, which is around 22 bigas, and I want to start that. Is there a consultant who can design the project? And because my idea is to, in year one, at least I want to have 25 fish farmers, all nearby villages who can live on it.
Where is it?
In Dumduma. It's in Tinsukia district. The place is called Dumduma.
I don't think so you'd require any consultant for that. You can come and visit our farm once whenever you have time and see how we have done it. Or you can go to many other farmers and see how they do it, basically. Second is you have to do a small survey of the topography of your area. How is the water depth? How is the quality of the soil and everything? So if you can give me a little bit of idea, then I can help you out. It's not rocket science. It's very easy to do it. Yes, but I would rather suggest you not to go for 22 bigas at the same go. Maybe go for 3, 4, 5 bigas and then give a try. And maybe next year you can expand it.
Are there questions from other participants? Otherwise, I may like to ask more questions.
I have requested if they have question they can write down, or somebody else may have.
Neelam,
Sanjay, why don't you continue?
Yeah. Neelam, there are some very delicious fishes which people really like in Assam. Pabda, Tengra, what they call kalapota, and also prawns or what? Yeah, prawns. Why are they? We are not able to do that, because if I go to buy a pabda, the first thing is 500 rupees kg, tengra 500 rupees kg, prawns 600 rupees kg, and I'm willing to pay, but I don't have that. What I get is the stale from somewhere from Andhra or Odisha.
So the basic thing, there are two reasons that I feel. One is we don't have any benchmark in this business. We basically follow those Bangladeshis to do everything for us in one way. Second, we doesn't have that entrepreneurship mindset in ourselves, being a community, And third thing, which I also feel that our politicians or our policymakers also doesn't have that, that extra bit to help us out of the box. So, I mean, lots of things accumulate in making ourselves very backward. But what I felt is, yes, there is always that in the market, there is always that demand and supply, economics. So there is always a big demand of pabda, chingri, and all those fishes, but there is hardly any supply. And second, we have been harvesting this from the natural water bodies like the rivers, the tribulates, the small streams, and also the lakes. And it got poisoned over the years because of excessive use of herbicides and chemicals. So if you see, most of the rivers are interlinked with the tea gardens, and all the residues goes west out. And fish eggs and amphibians eggs are very permissible. If you see the egg, and they really get like destroyed if there is contamination in the water. Number two, we don't have the facility of doing all this breeding. So we are trying our best to come out with public.
I think we lost him again.
We lost him again, yeah.
Rootstock of pabda. So we are breeding of pabda. Second, prawn. Prawn is a very expensive business. Hello? Can you hear me?
Here. Yes.
We can hear.
Yeah, in order to create a prawn hatchery, you require an investment of around 15 to 20 lakhs. And farmers like us are not in a position, or, like we cannot afford to build a prawn hatchery. So prawn during, we have two varieties. One is Rosenbergi and Malcolmensis. So these two varieties are really good. And these are freshwater prawns, but they require saline water during breeding. If we have to import the prawn post-larval stage seedling, we have to get it either from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, or from West Bengal. And the cost of each prawn seedling comes around 3 to 4 rupees, including transportation through air. And the mortality rate of post-larval prawn is around 50%. So if you see, if we get 100 prawns at 4 rupees, we'll end up paying 8 rupees because 50% of them dies. And 25 to 30 prawns makes a kilo. So if you make a wholesale of 400 kilos, so 30 prawns you will hardly get 12 to 14 rupees a prawn. So, and then extra you have to feed them throughout the whole year because they have a cannibalistic nature. So if they doesn't get feed, they will keep on eating among themselves. And they also take out the shell. It's like the snakes take out the shell.
She has so much of knowledge, but unfortunately we don't have a steady.
Yeah, we lost.
That is the sad part of talking to farmers who is in the field or in the area. You know, they don't have proper internet connection.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But very happy, Milin, from one fish farmer like this talking, and the last
Yeah.
one that we spoke about. You can see the difference in terms of knowledge,
Yes.
willingness to share, and the detailing.
Yes. All right. Okay. He will be rejoining. Okay. So, okay. Neelam, could you repeat the
Yes.
answer? We couldn't hear you. We couldn't hear your answer. The previous question. The wireless
So
was too
where did I
bad. We
end it?
couldn't hear you.
You
Yeah.
ended that each prawn will cost around 12 rupees because 50% of them will die.
Yes. So, and you have to do extra feeding, you have to take care, you have to do the management of the pond. So at the end, you know, in SMS, there is a saying that Kerala ke guti digol hai. Like you will end up paying more. So, but if we have our own prawn hatchery, then the overall cost will come down. So the prawn seeds will come at around 2 rupee a piece. So then hopefully we can make a profit around 6 to 8 rupees per prawn. So even if you make a profit of 6 rupee per prawn, so in a kilo, 30 prawns come. So you can make a profit of around 150 to 180 rupees a kilo. Yes.
So there's a question, Sanjay, here. They ask, could you throw some light about biofloc farming? What is biofloc? I have no idea.
So biofloc has come up very new. It basically a farming that is being practiced in you know, like places where there is less land or there is less scope of digging up fisheries and all. So it's basically a confined condition. It's a round structure or rectangular structure. You can make concrete structure, or you can come out with good LDP plastics. And then you have to do external feeding all the time, and also erosion and aeration. Aeration is very necessary. For that, you require lots of energy, because without aeration, there would be ammonia toxicity in the tank. Because in a confined conditions, in a space of around say 10 square meter, you can put around 2,000 to 3,000 fish, and basically those fish are catfishes. So you cannot put normal fishes like katla, rohu, and all. We require only air breeders. But once you feed them artificially and in high density, there would be lots of shit that will get accumulated. So, and the shit will produce lots of ammonia. So for that, you need a filtration plant, and also you need proper aeration 24/7. Yes.
So there's another question from Baba Chuti. He said that, do you provide any training in fish farming? Neelam, are you there?
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah.
This question is, if you provide any training on fish farming.
Excuse me.
Do you provide any training on fish farming?
Yes,
That's a question.
Now, the question is, Neelam, do you also provide training if somebody is interested in come and learn at your place or at another place?
Sorry. Am I audible?
Yes, Neelam, you may be having many apps open. If you could close other apps, it may be easier. And you can also, for now, turn off your video. Maybe your wireless connection will be better. Sanjay?
I don't think he can. I don't think he can hear us.
Okay.
Maybe he has very highly fluctuating connections.
Yes.
Neelam, are you back?
Yes, yes. I'm really sorry. I'm really
no
sorry.
problem. The question that is there from Bhavajyati, that do you also provide training to fish farmers if somebody is interested in receiving training
Yes.
at your place or at a neutral place or any other place, and what it could cost probably?
So yes, we do training on fish farming, but the training are very tough. So what we suggest, if someone wants to come, they have to work from morning 5 o'clock till evening 7 o'clock. That's how you will learn. So you'll learn from us, and you will learn practically. So you need to have extra 5-6 pair of shorts and t-shirts, because most of the time you will be there in the water. Second, we do offer training on 3 different ways. One is if there are poor farmers, if they are below poverty, line, so we offer free training, free food, free stay, and free training. Everything is free. In fact, we also provide sometimes the transportation of those farmers as well. That is number 1. Number 2, if there are certain people or young people, those who are unemployed or they can't afford, so training and food will, training and stay will be free, but we'll ask for the food. Or we have the provisions for making their own food. So if they want, they can come here, they can stay, they can get trained, and they can cook their own food. Or if they have to eat food with us, then they have to pay for the food. And the third is it's a paid training. So right now we are training the fishery officials of government of Arunachal Pradesh. So we are training almost each and every district officials in our farm. So we charge around 1,000 rupees to 1,500, including food, training, and stay. That's it.
And in one go, how many people you take? How many participants can you accommodate?
Actually, we have a place for staying around 30 people, but usually we take 20. 20, it's quite manageable for us. 20, 22.
So there's another question. So he asks that he farm mixed breed in a biofloc tank. So if so, what can I cannot see? Sorry.
Yes.
Sanjay,
what are the compatible breeds?
Yeah.
So in mixed breed, in mixed biofloc, actually, I have not done biofloc of my own, so I don't have any practical idea about it. What I have seen, I can only say. So it's basically Alpa Beta Bhayankari for me now. So in compatible breeds, if you see the catfishes like Pangasius, which we call Cosmas, and also now the Paku. Paku is also very popular, the Rupchanda. So these 2 fishes are compatible to each other. So they can
we are losing
different.
So Neelam, we are losing you quite often. So we request you if you could switch off the video mode, and if there's many application, if you can turn it off, then we will not lose you so much.
Yeah. Am I good now?
Yes. Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. So the compatible varieties among catfishes are both Pangasius and Paku, or what you call the Rupchanda, and among other are carps. But in carps you can put high density because they are fin breeders, so they require oxygen there, and there is always the BOD, biological oxygen demand in the water. So if there is loss of ammonia, the BOD will decrease and the fish will eventually die. Yes.
So I have another question from the web, and they said that there's a river that goes through his land around 60 bighas. So there's water only in the monsoon, and it comes from the hill. The water comes from the hill. So he wanted to know if you could convert that to fishery.
Yes, that is very good, because if running water is really good for fisheries. So if you can have like good waters, I mean irrigation system, I mean not irrigation, outlet in both the ways, inlet and outlet. If you can come up with good pipes or hume pipes, or maybe with nets, if the good quality GI nets are galvanized iron where it doesn't get rust. So the good fine nets, you can put it in both the outlets and inlets. So then yes, you can come out with that. But only problem is the nets. It will not stop the small fishes to come, the local fishes. So there is also chances of having lots of local indigenous fishes, which is really good. But basically those are all carnivorous, so they end up in eating all the fish food. So in order to do that, you need to artificially feed the fish sometimes. And feeding is also a tiring job, because you can put it in a tank because the water keeps running. So you need to feed them in bowls or in sacks, bags where you can put the feed, not in the flow of the water on the sides, and the fish will come automatically and get feeded. Yeah. Next.
Sanjay, do you have more questions? You're mute. Sanjay, you're mute. You're not.
No more questions, but I would certainly like to visit as soon as I'm back to Assam.
Yes, you must. It will be a pleasure.
So last time there's a question about pH level. So could you say something about the pH level for fish farming? And other thing is that I have 3-4 questions. One is that, and the other thing is that I recently filed an what do you call RTI. I was just getting trained on RTI against Assam Fishery Department, and I came to know that only 1/3 of the fish that required is produced in Assam. So in order to have the fish, like, so that we can produce all the fish that we eat, what all needs to be done? How could we increase more fish farming? If you could say something about that.
So usually, if I say about the hello.
Yeah.
So usually, if I say about the soil texture, Assam is by and large very acidic in nature. So in order to make it neutral, so it comes around 7.5. So in our place, it is usually 6.2. So in order to make it more pH neutral, so pH neutral is basically a scientific term that is being used. But in Assamese term, I'll rather use a very simple word, is that amar mati khini bahut tenga. So ekhine mitha koribo lage. So in order to make it more sweeter, so you have to use lime. So because loss of leaching and erosion happens because we have a very flat prone area and there's lots of rain. So in order to maintain that, you need to have a pH level of that. So once the soil is pH neutral, then the auxiliary things happens, like the planktons will grow naturally, the water quality will remain good, the fish will get abundant food to eat, there will be less disease and infestation because of the good quality of the water. Yes.
And how do you, what do you do, or are you doing anything to encourage more young entrepreneurs to get into farming? Or if somebody asks, could you direct them towards you? If somebody says over here that I want to do farming.
Obviously, yeah. And also is that in farming, we can't do training like what many people does in a day or two, because many people so-called, like pseudo consultants in a market, they come out with 1 or 2 day or 3 day training and they make you something, a farmer or whatever. So it's kind of a sadhana, it's farming is not that you can learn, you have to inbuilt yourself. It's like, you have to learn the humility of, the basics of farming, not only farming, but also, the management, the labor management, the farm management, and also marketing and everything, So that's why, last year we trained more than 4,000 farmers, and we also offer training to people who come for long duration, like internships or apprenticeships or volunteers. Then only you will get to learn more. In fact, I also learned like that, it's not a thing that you learn in a day or two and you become a scientist or you become a commando, So these are certain things you have to reintrospect every now and then, and once you stay in a farm, you'll know that how tough it is, how tough it is a farm life, how tough that you have to work 24 into 7 into 365 days. Because in farming, you can't have holidays. You have to milk your cows every day. You have to clean the cow shed every day. You have to feed the fish more or less every day. So you have to water the plants every day. So everything is interrelated, Yeah.
So if somebody asks that I wanted to do farming, and I, say that, he can contact you or do intern, do you think 3 months intern, or how long do you take? A monthly intern, how does it?
It also depends on the intent and the attitude of that particular guy. So what we also offer is that not a stress of long training, because people also get bored. So maybe seasonal training is also good, right? During this time when they know that we do fish breeding, they can come and see. Then management of the fish pond and then marketing. So maybe they can come in, 3 times a year or 2 times a year and then learn, So basically 1 month, or maybe if they want to continue for a year, it's better, or maybe 6 months. Yeah.
And another question I have is that when you say organic fish farming, how is it different, the organic versus inorganic? Do you not put urea, and could you explain a little bit about this whole organic fish farming?
So the best thing is the organoplasmic quality, the taste that you get in the fish. So right now we are directly marketing to a few professors in Tezpur University, and the feedback was really good. I mean, we are really proud of what we are doing now. So we are not only sell fish, we sell vegetable, rice, and honey to around 60 consumers in Tezpur University, direct marketing. And they're very happy with our fish. And every day the fish demand is increasing. And that only comes because of the taste. So while feeding, it all depends on, basically it is said that you become what you eat, So our fish also becomes what we feed them. So we try to feed them very natural feed, and also try to maintain the equilibrium in the water quality and in the whole micro ecosystem in our farm. So fish is just a component of our farm. I mean, 30% of the whole farm area is, I'm 68% of the farm area is into fisheries, but we make a income around 34%. But it's all interrelated because we have so much of amphibians, reptiles, birds, and everything. The water is being used for our vegetables. The water is used for our rice. So it's, a complete ecosystem, And fish in that way, if you feed them properly and if you feed them organically, obviously the fish taste will come out, and obviously the fish will also go better. So, and you also can create a niche out of it, because you have that extra punch that you do organic fish. No one does in the market. Everybody use urea, SSP, or DAP, which is readily available. So we want to go against the wave and do something good. And we also want to offer something good to our consumers. Yes.
So is urea is okay considered, tell us, quite often people set up what they give urea. And yeah.
So before urea, what did people use? Tell me. Our forefathers, or maybe in our dad's time, there was no urea. There was no urea SSP before pre-green green revolution. Still, there were fishes that were being grown. Still, there were people that were living healthy. Still, people, they were living less, they didn't go to the hospital. So see, there's a certain things that have been imposed. There's a big conspiracy by someone to impose certain things, and they're making us dependent on someone else. So they're taking, we are losing our sovereignty day by day, and we're losing our own identity, our own thing, So just urea is just a small thing. If just think that if there is a greater pandemic in the world, and or you are in a bad terms with China or America, if they stop sending us certain things, we'll become helpless, We can't do anything. Yeah.
Neelam, one of the, I don't know whether it's a myth or reality. People say when you do, whether it is organic farming or organic fish farming, the yield is a lot less than what you do through the using fertilizers and other inorganic things. How true is that? Is this a myth, or is there some reality in it?
No, this is 100% true. Obviously, the fish, if you don't put them extra things, they will not grow. But also the input cost is also very relevant, like now you are using urea, or you are using too much of external feed, the synthetic feeds that are available. Obviously, the fish will grow big, but at the cost of money, But if you don't do that, you still earn, but, the cost benefit ratio is almost the same. In fact, in the organic, it is much higher than that of conventional, but we have been, getting in our farm.
Okay.
So there's another question.
When I was asking, but I also see that anything which is branded organic, either through a proper certificate or even without a certificate, which we see in lots of market now, it also gets a premium. So that must be kind of make-upping for the loss that inorganic farmers get, because there is generally a premium of 15 to 20% on the organic product.
I don't think so. It's we also have to come up with many things of ethical farming, So being organic, it doesn't mean that you have to make it too much higher or that, Even though the input costs are low, obviously the cost of production will also be low, even though the productivity will be a bit less. So what I perceive is you need to have, we have to create a benchmark in organic farming. I feel 99% of organic farming or farmers are all pseudo farmers. They are not basically organic, I'll cite you a very small example. So last 2 weeks back, we went to Haflong for some, case study, and we got to know that they say that by organic, it's organic by default and all, that's the term that we use generally in the market now. But every farmers are using herbicides. For them, herbicide is organic, For them, Roger or, chlorpyrifos or using a pesticide is organic. You won't believe in the extreme-most part, in the world. I mean, if you go to Thembang or villages like very interior, people still use herbicides. Herbicides are certain things, which are being sold in pan shop, tea shop, and grocery shops. So, Monsanto and Syngenta have higher, marketing skills than what we have. So every farmer in the nook and corner of the country have got, chemical stuff in their whole tummy because of accessibility of this produce. And the government are also promoting in one way. I'm not saying from a Marxist point of view, I'm a very rightist farmer and I do believe my own right. But in one way, our dependency to others has risen up and our self-dependency has, we have lose it, to ashes.
So there's another question from Manohar. He is back to biofloc. So his question is Assam government promoting biofloc farming? And in what way can they assist them?
I'm really sorry, Manohar. I haven't been to the government offices for many years. I had lots of bitter experiences. Please don't take me other way. But I can't bribe to get something, So I have my own principles and my own ideology. So I'm really sorry. So whatever we're doing, we're taking a bank credit from a centralized bank with around 11% of interest, which is also very ironic because our car loan is around 9%, whereas my agricultural term loan is 11%. And being farmers, it is really tough for us to make 11% profit and return it back to the bank,
That's the tragedy.
Now the government is doing as subsidizing lots of small scale and medium scale industries, but they're not doing anything for the farmers. So it's like, you have to struggle not only with yourself, but also to the society and the system. Anyway, so yes, is it possible to do fish farming in pakka ponds, mean artificial ponds? Yes, it is possible to do. Only thing is that you, on the base of the pakka pond, you need to have a soil base. And also you have to need aeration, aeration in the sense you need aerators. Like in the aquariums and glass containers, you use the small vibrating aerators. So you also need aerators because there would be less oxygen in demand in the water.
And there's one more question from Sunil from the Facebook. He said that, would it be possible to make water 12 months? He's still talking about the water which he get only in monsoon.
It depends on the area because we are very blessed and privileged in a village where we are staying now, Pabhoi. So during summers, if you can take out the water from the well in a bucket, so the water table really comes up. So, and also our area, when my father started it, everybody laughed at him. He was a doctor by profession. He left his job and he came here and he started digging ponds in 78. So no one believed that, there would be fisheries here. But now we had more than 4,000 bighas of fishery in the whole area. So the big revolution has started out here. So, but in certain places, the water table really goes down. So we are very helpless. But many people also use the boring water, underground water. But underground water in Assam have got lots of toxicity. Like in many cases, we have arsenic and also all the heavy metals get exposed to the soil. So if you can deviate the water from rivers or other sources, or if you have, other ways, then you can do it. Or try to filter the water and put it in the tank.
I hope he listened to it. So he was talking about a river. He's talking about Demo Dhemaji. Okay, so the water comes from Arunachal, and it's just there for only the monsoon season, and then it goes out. So he was trying to figure out how he can, store those water for 12 months.
So you need to create a non-perishable layer. Like if you see in our household where in our villages where we clean our utensils or where you take bath near the, near the bore well or near the well, or near the hand pump, you can see that, the water always stays there throughout the year, even though it's on the surface of the soil. Because every time when you use it, there is a non-permeable, a kind of a silt that is get deposited on the surface. The silt are very minute and they're very light and they're very small. So they stick together. If you have sand have got a very good permeable layer. So the water usually goes down. So you need to create a kind of a silt layer in there. So silt doesn't occur naturally. So before digging up the pond, if you can take out the top layer and keep it aside, and after digging, if you can put the top layer back to the surface of the table of the pond, then I think you will get the 6 inches of silt and good soil, humus, and then you have to use lots of compost or loss of cow dung or loss of bio matter, so that the silt is generated. And once the silt is generated, they will not allow the water to go down much. But still it will go, but still it will be less.
Thank you. He's thanking you from the web. Anybody else has any question? We really appreciate your time. I know that, being a farmer, you are very busy.
No, I have to go. I have to have my breakfast and I have to do some, because lots of people have come to take fish seedlings from us, and it's high season, for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but I can also, request the forum, like if they want to come and visit our farm, our doors are always open. If they want to get trained or like to get a, a view of what we do, and, they can come and stay with us and learn. And, they can write to me, or emails are much better. So I'll just type my email. So I prefer email to, to reply.
is there any fish, farming cooperative where people come together to do is there any community fish farmer?
Right now, we don't have any fish or fish cooperative, but yes, as for the government records, there are. But we have an organic cooperative where we also do fisheries together. We come out with the only organic cooperative in Assam. So it's called Paboi Organic Cooperative Society. We have 31 members, and we are also working on an integrated agricultural value chain.
So if you want your fish, where can you buy your fish? Is it available in Guwahati or only in Tezpur area?
Only in Bishwanath Charli in Paboi, but we also supply it to Guwahati sometimes. Now we have a few clients in Guwahati, so once the buses will resume, so Saturday night we will put the fish in the bus, and morning you have to collect it from a place in Guwahati. So the way we do it, yeah. And
so where in Guwahati?
In Paltan Bazaar in Blue Hill Travels. There's a bus counter just behind Hotel Nandan.
Okay.
So you have to get it collected from there.
Good to know.
Thank you so much, Neelam.
It's a pleasure, Dr. Gupta. Yeah.
I'm completely. I'm just looking forward. If I can come tomorrow, I would definitely give you a call. Is it okay to take your number from Milin and give you a call whenever I want to come down to your place?
Yes, I have just given you that number. Yeah.
Oh. And Sanjay, I'll go with you.
Please.
So, am I done? Am I good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Neelam. Salute to your work, Neelam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's very nice. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody else, for joining. Thank you. I'll end this session.